In a 501c3 providing housing for veterans, first off, thank you for doing that. Second off, 501c3s are awesome. Can I still hold homes in separate LLCs under the nonprofit? So I know this doesn't look like much of a tax question, but it's really important because what it shows is actually it gives me an opportunity to add some color to this. First off, providing housing for veterans does not mean you need to own the house. You could actually go out there and just facilitate other homes and go out there and rent other houses and make them available to veterans at discounts or working with third parties. So just because your 501c3 is providing housing for veterans does not mean it needs to own the property. So you could actually own houses in a for-profit LLC and rent it to the 501c3, or just give it to it if you really felt like it and say, hey, really what I'm doing is they would treat it as being rented and contributions to the 501c3 in the amount of the lease, of the fair market lease. So it's like you're not doing it any favors by saying it's zero. You would just say, hey, I'm going to charge you rent, and just you're treating it like you're giving it the rent. You know, it pays you and then you turn around and give it, which is perfectly fine. You can certainly do that. You could actually just charge it enough rent so that you're offsetting the depreciation. If it's below fair market value, then you'd have that same calculation where you'd say, hey, it's like the 501c3 paid you the difference between what you're charging it and the fair market value, and you're making a contribution to the 501c3. The last one is kind of what's really what your question is about, which is, hey, if my 501c3 buys properties or owns property, or I give it a bunch of properties, can that 501c3 have LLCs underneath it? And the answer is yes. Because remember, LLCs don't exist to the IRS. We tell the IRS what it is. And so under those LLCs, we'd probably say ignore it and treat it as though it's in the 501c3. And that's exactly what it would be treated as. It would just be carried as an asset on the 501c3. And the LLCs would be set up and disregarded so that there's liability protection. Because believe it or not, you still have to be aware that even if your nonprofit owns a property, it can get sued just as easy as if it was in a for-profit.
So you would actually recommend that they do this if they're going to have multiple properties?
Yeah, you would absolutely. So if you're going to have multiple properties in an LLC or in a 501c3, isolate the property because you still have liability. In fact, that's one of the few ways to get that liability inside that, into that 501c3. Otherwise, 501c3s are awesome because they're separate from you and nobody can take it away from you. Like they can fight with you about it, but that's about it. You don't own it. That's why I love them. And you get a tax deduction for any money you put in. So if you're ever, like this is one of the fun ones, is when somebody's flipping houses and giving it away, or flipping houses and giving it to a charity, or fixing it up for for veterans or whatnot. I sometimes look at them and said, yeah, you're never really going to get that money. It might be added to basis. So let's say I bought a house for 50, put 50 into it. Well, I can't write off the 50,000 I put into it, nor can I write off the $50,000 that I purchased. Those are both added to basis. So I have a $100,000 basis.
Right.
I'm much better off giving my 501c3 $100,000 and having it go out, and I get a full write-off, let it go out and buy the property and fix it up. And you could do that inside of an LLC. So hopefully, I think I just heard the poosh of some brains popping. But yes, that's exactly what you can do. It's kind of fun.